But find out in every conversation explores beyond of thinking, beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. One of her advocacy helping singles thrive in self-love and find love intentionally, none other than Miss Brylye Collins.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. I really appreciate it.
Welcome, Miss Bryle on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself to that
Yeah,
my listeners?
I'd love to. So, again, thanks so much for having me on the show today. So, I'm Brylye Collins, founder of Building with Brye. So, I'm a certified relationship coach and matchmaker. And the reason why I created Building with Brye is because modern dating has gotten so loud and confusing and honestly exhausting for a lot of really fantastic individuals. So, most of the people that I work with are successful, they're busy, emotionally available, and they're not necessarily struggling to meet people, but they're struggling to meet the right people. And they're tired of the endless texting, the situationships, ghosting that really never turn into anything real. So I support singles in two ways. First off is intentional connections, which is my private matchmaking service. And I take people off the dates and into a curated process really that is very human, and it takes the algorithm out of it. So I get to know them on a deeper level and, screen for their actual readiness, their relationship goals, and then I introduce them to like-minded individuals. And then if you're not quite ready to start dating yet, I have Thriving Solo, which is my empowerment work for singles. That is where we focus on self-trust, confidence, and boundaries and breaking patterns in dating. So dating feels less like chaos and starts feeling more like a choice. So, and it's really about coming solid in who you are, what your life goals are, and expectations. And at the heart of it all, though, I really just help people date with more self trust and less noise. And again, I'm working with singles, all over the United States. And I'm excited to be here to talk a little bit more about what's really happening right now in dating and with singles.
Speaking with singles, well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Bryle. Thank you. And today, let's talk about stop chasing love, how to date with clarity, standards, and self trust. So, Miss Bryle, your work is built on helping singles reconnect with themselves first.
Mhm.
Stop chasing love in proactive or provocative. In your experience, what's the fundamental difference between chasing love and actually attracting it from a place of self connection?
Yeah. So, I'll go back to an experience, right? So, typically, when people get out of relationships, right, the first thing they do today in modern dating is not necessarily process their feelings. Some individuals are great and they really understand that they need to kind of do that work and the healing before they jump into another relationship. But in today's day and age, we have dating apps. So, it's extremely easy for people right after a breakup to hop onto those dating apps and post their favorite selfies and the photos they feel, the most beautiful in or handsome, and put themselves out there essentially on the market to start dating again with somebody new, but they haven't done the work yet. So sometimes individuals are creating these dating profiles, and they may have just broken up with their partner of a year, and the dust hasn't even settled yet. They're still crying, maybe in bed, and haven't worked through those emotions yet, but yet they're out there on these social media apps for a really for a self-esteem boost in that point in time, and looking for somebody to fix them and how they feel in that moment. And by doing that and not taking that time and space to really come back to yourself after a relationship ends, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be a romantic relationship. It could be friendship, it could be you're an empty nester, maybe you just got out of a 20-year divorce. But it's so important to work through those emotions first and those feelings, whether, it's sadness, grief, anger, frustration, before you put yourself out there and say that you're actually emotionally available and intentional about dating, because you haven't processed those feelings first yet. Then you connect with individuals that are like, oh, great. Daniel's back on the market and I see his profile and I would love to match with him. He's everything that I'm looking for, but you are not emotionally ready yet to even jump into a new relationship. So not only are you currently hurt in this moment, but guess what you just did? You hurt somebody else throughout the process, and now they have possible self doubt or are wondering why people aren't swiping on them or why they're ghosting them. So, really, it's a disservice to put yourself back out on the market if you haven't done the internal healing work and are confident in yourself and what you want moving forward.
Well said, very well said, Ms. Bryle. And tell us, many of us have been conditioned to believe that finding love is about luck or timing. You
Mhm.
help clients to build clarity on what they truly want. What do you think is clarity is more a powerful tool than just hope in the dating world?
Yeah, and society has done a fantastic job of telling all of us what boxes we should fit in, right? Whether that be from your career path, maybe it's a story that your givers gave you as a child, or whatever that looks like. So a lot of individuals were brought up on the fact that if you didn't find love, or if you didn't get married, or you didn't do it by a certain time frame, that maybe you were damaged goods or there was something wrong with you because you didn't fit into that societal box. And at the end of the day, when people are rushing to make those decisions about relationships and marriage and starting families, but they're not ready for it yet, it's really just, again, doing a disservice to yourself going through that process if you don't know, or are doing something that makes you happy or is something that you're working towards because somebody else is telling you to do it. So with that, I always recommend, again, what do you want out of life? Are you looking to create a you know career, and you want to work for the first 10 years of getting out of college before you decide to commit yourself to another individual? There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Or, you know what? Did you just graduate high school and you want to have a family from the get go before you get started into everything else? Because maybe later on in life, you want your freedom to go explore and travel and still be young, or not, maybe go through, a later in life pregnancy or things along those lines. So, what is it that you want? Not what you think you need, but what are the steps to, first of all, reach your goals, and then decide how that relationship is going to fit into it moving forward. And maybe it doesn't look like marriage. Maybe it looks like long term commitment, or maybe in the moment, you only have availability for a casual relationship or a friends with benefits. But whatever that looks like and what you need in the moment, you have to be honest with yourself, because if you're just telling this constant story about the avenue you should head down, or do I go right or do I left, do I marry this guy, do I do this, or you know what, is it wrong of me for wanting to focus on my career and get married later on in life? Those are all things that you need to know about yourself before you're going to get into a commitment with somebody else. And it's also too okay for those goals to change. Just because you've picked a path that you want to head down, and a year or 6 months you're like, you know what, no, I want to do this and I want to be in a relationship now, that is okay. You're allowed to change your mind. So
Beautifully articulated, Ms. Bryle. You talk about moving people beyond casual chaos. For someone who has history of ignoring red flags or staying too long, where does the chaos usually stem from, and how does a lack of self-trust play a role?
yeah, so chaos with yourself and in relationships. And if I really, for me individually, I don't like using titles when I'm talking about individuals, but some of those buzzwords nowadays are narcissist and dismissive avoidance, or whatever that toxic language is. At the end of the day, we are all humans that were conditioned when we were younger and learn certain behaviors, and we have a choice when we get into adulthood. Do we want to work on that? Is that who we are as an individual, or is what it was taught to us and what we had to do to get through the day in our younger years, or is that really what you're looking for? So, real quick, I just lost my train of thought. So, I'm going to let you repeat the question again. Oh, you're on mute.
No worries at all. So we are saying that if you talk about moving beyond
Mm,
casual chaos, for
yes.
someone whose history is of ignoring red flags or staying too long, where does that chaos usually stem from?
Perfect. So that chaos, so right? So that's all that type of behavior is learned behavior for when you were younger. So maybe if you had to perform, let's say for attention as a child and you only got rewarded by doing a good job, or maybe it was having the right grades or cleaning your room, but you didn't understand that love could just be given to you without performing, essentially. When you get into your relationships as an adult, guess what you're going to do? You're going to perform for those relationships because that is how you learned love. So, really understanding what was taught to you as an individual, as a child, and earlier relationships, even if it's, dating in high school or whatever, that first love of yours was, those behaviors you learned at just such a developmental place in your life stem from, a lot of your problems in adult dating. So let's say, for instance, you are always choosing a narcissist or somebody that just drains your soul but keeps taking your energy. Guess what? You might have been taught as a child that your job was to fix everything. So you see this individual and you want to help and you want to give and constantly giving, and they're taking from you, but they're not giving anything in return. And you think you have to perform and show up. And, I can speak as a woman that has gone through divorce and everything else. And I'm very happy of the time that I had with my ex-husband and my children, and it really helped shape who I am today and allowed me to do the work that I'm doing today. But I remember being in a situation when my kids were all little, and I was technically a stay-at-home mom, but I had just started a photography business and was doing it on the sides. But I felt like I had to do everything, and my main job was to support my ex-husband and his career and my children. And I was secretly inside just drowning and not happy, and my needs were not getting met. And even to, like, down to, leaving my full-time job where I was working 60, 70 hours a week to a stay-at-home mom starting a, kind of a part-time hobby business. And I didn't feel that I was engaged necessarily in learning and taking things. But for me, that was how, when I was younger, I saw other role models in my life that had successful marriages. That's what it looked like, right? From the outside. Now, I'm sure that they, had some other things that maybe I didn't see behind the scenes, whether it was communication or things along those lines. But I can say for me personally, that is a cycle that I had to unlearn after my divorce. And I started to see popping up into relationships moving forward. And I'm like, no, I can't keep giving myself to somebody else and not getting something in return. So I always love to use this saying, when you're on an airplane and they're going through those safety, protocols, when the plane, if there is something going on and there's a lack of oxygen, if you're an adult and somebody's sitting next to you that maybe is unable to help themselves, the first thing you have to do is put that air mask on first before you can help anybody else. And if you are not working with yourself on what your needs are and what those expectations are and what you want your relationships to look like, you're going to continue to repeat the same patterns. But it's a practice and you have to do it every single day, right? Like, you can go to therapy once a week and that will help you in the moment. But if you are not practicing every single day the changes that you want to see in your life, it's no different than going to the gym and working out for an hour once a week and expecting to have six-pack abs without doing the additional work that goes along with it.
Very well said, Ms. Bryle. So, if we to look at the dating as a reflection of our relationship with ourselves,
Mhm.
what is the most common tell that someone is not ready to date with the purpose and intentionality you to teach?
Walls are always a red flag for me or a pause. This is yellow. Let's take a look at it. So there's a lot of individuals out there that say they want relationships, right? And they have boundaries that they're looking for in future relationships, or maybe that they won't tolerate moving forward, whether, it was toxicity from a previous relationship and they think to themselves, no, I don't want that moving forward. Or it could be something as simple as, right? Maybe somebody you were dating was a smoker and you're like, I'm not interested in that moving forward. That isn't something I enjoy. Those are great. You should know what you want moving forward out of life and what's going to keep you happy and how it's going to impact your mental health and physical health, right? But there's a lot of individuals that want relationships, but they put up walls because they're not really ready to date yet. And they say they want it, but their actions prove differently, right? So maybe that's work that they're using as a wall, and they keep making excuses that they can't see you, even though they absolutely probably could and have the time to be flexible, but they're choosing not to do that because maybe they're just not ready yet for a relationship. They like the idea of it, but when they get close and they start to have that chemistry and the intimacy and they see that, this relationship could be something great, they haven't necessarily done that work yet to number one, get rid of those old triggers and work through that. But also, too, is it's scary. It's scary to meet somebody new and trust them again and, be vulnerable with them and intimate and all those other things. And in today's society, everybody, unfortunately, with these dating apps, is really dispensable and anyone can get on an app at any point in time and you have a full roster of new individuals if something isn't working out or you're making an excuse of why you don't want to be in a relationship and you go, well, you know what? Brylye or whoever else that I'm dating right now, they have these expectations, but instead of just telling her the truth that, hey, I have some stuff I need to work through or whatever else, they ghost, they do situationships, they give you minimal information of why they're ending it, which then in return, again, creates that negative outlook on the individual who's really essentially taking the brunt of it by getting dismissed or having hope completely ended by this individual that hasn't done the work yet.
Let's break down clarity, Miss Briley. Your bio mentions helping clients clarify what they truly want in a partner and relationship. How can a person distinguish between a superficial checklist and true values based clarity about what they need?
Yeah. So superficial, I'm so happy you said that because I can't tell you how many of my clients that I work with, and they're like, Briley, I want a woman who's blonde and she's active and she's fit and she's got a great job and she's doing all this stuff. But also, too, she's not drama. She's not this. She's not everything else. But at the end of the day, they actually haven't mentioned anything about the individual's personality or what they could bring to the table as mentally emotionally, things along those lines. So it's really, I always encourage clients, like, yes, you have to be physically attracted to who you're going to be with, but at the end of the day, guess what? People get old and they age, and you know what, they dye their hair, they might have hormone issues, or maybe they're having health issues that has caused their body to change shape. Does that mean that they're not a good person at their core, or they're not going to meet your standards on what is actually going to keep the relationship together, which is communication, it's partnership, it's a willingness to work together as a team to overcome struggles, whether it be, intimacy struggles, or maybe it's financial problems that you're running into, or even too, maybe it's raising children. Like if you cannot communicate with somebody and they're not willing to work with you as an active partner and collaborate in the relationship, and all they're focused on is how they look, or are they 6'2", or whatever that looks like, because men and women both do it. But I would challenge people, take those filters off. Like, yes, you have to be attracted to who you're with, and I'm not minimizing that in the least bit, but at the same time too, could you be attracted to somebody that maybe has a mindset of what you're actually looking for in life, or are you just getting stuck on those superficial, hair colors, height, weight, body shapes, and sizes, when you could truly probably build something really meaningful with somebody, and have what you're looking for out of life if you just were a little bit open to something different. So when I match with clients, what I do is I have them fill out, a really in-depth questionnaire. We discuss it. And at that point in time with that, I'll ask them, I'm like, do you have flexibility on this? Like if I show up with a bachelor who checks all of your boxes, but guess what? He doesn't have six-pack abs. And you know what? He's not 6'2". He's 5'11". Are you going to turn him down because it's not hitting those? Or are you going to be open to having a conversation to see even if it can flow? Because I can tell you right now, I've been divorced since 2019 and haven't I've had a few longer relationships, but I've been essentially single most of the time. And with that, I've gotten into conversations with people that I was very attracted to, but when I actually had the conversation, I'm like, there is no depth here. Like there is absolutely, like, I can't imagine, rolling over in the morning and having a conversation with them because I actually don't know what we would even have in common to have a conversation about. So, really be open to that. Like, what is your life going to look like with this individual? And if that's all you care about is looks, then you know what? That's completely okay if that's what you're looking for, but you have to communicate that to the individual. And is the other individual okay just being there to be arm candy for you and maybe not have that emotional depth? But that is a conversation, and those relationships don't everybody has to, be comfortable in it, and it doesn't have to look cookie cutter, but you have to have those conversations.
Well said, Miss Bryle, indeed. And the word standards can sometimes be misconstrued, almost misconstrued as being picky. In
Mhm.
your coaching, how do you help someone differentiate a defensive standard from discerning standard?
Yeah. So again, standards are great and they're definitely lovely guardrails to have in place, and you have to have them. But is it a standard or is it a wall, right? So I think of myself, and anytime, like, I know myself, I'm great at putting up walls. I'm really good at it because I am afraid of getting hurt again. And I'm okay articulating that to somebody if we're really getting into an in-depth conversation. So when I notice my walls popping up or I start to use the language that goes along with it, that's something that I practice on currently. And every day is a thing. If I'm meeting somebody new or if I'm going out on a date and I start to hear those walls come up, I stop and I pause and I go, Briley, is this you being afraid of getting to know this individual, or is this you actually having a standard? So for me, since 2019, my standards and were my kids come first and my career comes first because I have to provide for them. And then if I have time, I will allow somebody else into my life, but not at the expense of those two things. Well, guess what? You know what? I had time to date. I absolutely probably had at that time that I was having those conversations with individual, the emotional availability to date, but I was in so much fear of getting into another relationship that was just going to crush my soul because I had all of these ideas and potential of how this individual could show up, and it crushed me. It absolutely crushed me because I knew I was giving 110% into the relationship, right? And we're gonna go back to the people pleasing person, right? We all do it. But for me, that was my wall that I called my standards, or what whoever I was dating should be expecting out of me, because not because I didn't have the time or the availability. And yes, I'm very big on, protecting my kids' space and things like that. But I probably could have been a little bit more lenient at the time and chose not to. And by that, I very well could have pushed away a lot of great individuals that maybe I could have connected with. But for me, I wasn't ready for it in that moment yet. So, anytime those things come up, I challenge you to pause and breathe before you open up your mouth, because we all get it and it looks different for everybody. I know a common thing I see with men that they love to put down on the dating apps is, I don't want any drama. And as soon as I see that, I'm like, interesting. I'm like, you might be the drama. And, because guess what? Life has drama in it and it has challenges, and you are not going to agree with everybody, but the way you communicate those challenges or those conversations, you need to be productive with it. And there's a difference between that's a nice buzzword to put with it, but that to me says, okay, you're not ready to have collaboration with somebody, because guess what, stuff goes wrong. And if you consider that drama, then you should probably keep in your bubble, because everybody's going to have some level of drama or baggage. But especially if you're at a stage in your life where maybe you're a little bit older, like I am, right? I need to decide, what kind of baggage am I willing to take on with a partner, right? Because we all have it. For me, I'm almost 47 years old. And so I have, since I started dating, and expectations and a childhood and all that other stuff, and a lot of lived experience. And with that, I need to decide, somebody who has the same amount, have they done the work? Or are they still pushing it down and ignoring it, and, using ways to, kind of mask that work that they haven't done yet? So I like to refer to it as, when you get onto a plane, you have your checked baggage, right? That you leave at the counter, and you can put in as much of it as possible, or you pack light and you have a carry-on. For me right now in my life, I'm looking for an individual that has a carry-on of baggage, right? Not the checked baggage. So it's really important to really understand the work that the individual has done. And if they have, great, bonus. But if not, do you have the capacity to support somebody that is maybe going through that process still? And can you have flexibility and understanding and the emotional intelligence to, still partner with them as they go through it? And it's a very individual choice for everybody.
So, Ms. Brylye, to wrap up our discussion for today, looking back at your journey working with single across the U.S., what is the one thing you wish you could tell your former chasing self about the love that was waiting for them on the other side of all this work?
Well, relationships are great. A lot of people want them, and it's nice to have companionship and all that. But at the end of the day, love starts with yourself, and it's so important to love yourself among anything else. And any additional love or people that you can have to share that with in your life is fantastic. But start with yourself first.
Definitely start with yourself, people. And Ms. Brylye, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever project that you're doing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at buildingwithbrye.com. And on there, I'd love for you to, hop on, check out my services. I offer my 8-week Thriving Solo program for singles that really are looking to come back to themselves. In addition to that, I offer private mentorship as well. And then I have matchmaking subscriptions for both men and women. And I actually have a workbook coming up very soon that is going to align with the Thriving Solo work that I'm getting ready to publish. So I will definitely let you know, Daniel, when that happens. And but you'll be able to purchase it online, and it's really exciting work. So if you know somebody that this resonates with, please like, share, and follow.
Definitely. Please do come over, Ms. Bryle, once that is published. I'm inviting you to be part of my book 101 review as well as abstract essay. People, let's support Miss Brylye Collins, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering relationship will rise. So, Miss Brylye, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Daniel. It's great chatting with you.
Likewise, more to come, people. See you soon.